it's Annie and welcome back to another bookish video. I'm honestly very fond of reading books again. I know a lot of people don't like doing it, but in my case, I really enjoy, going back to the characters I fell in love with, the scenes I got so invested in, and even, just the feelings I felt when I first read the book. That is why today I decided to pick 5 books that I want to read again this year. So the first book I have here is called Flowers for Algernon, and it's written by Daniel Keyes. So I read this book about 3 years ago, and I remember as soon as I finished it, I just couldn't stop talking about it for days because it was so good. This is a science fiction novel, so if you're interested in sci-fi, I highly recommend this one. So this is a story about a man named Charlie Gordon. So Charlie was born with really low IQ, so he struggled for the most part of his life, but then one day he was chosen to be the subject for an experimental surgery, and the researchers were hoping that this would increase the level of his intelligence. And this experiment was actually previously done on a lab mouse named Algernon, so that's him right there. And in Algernon's case, the surgery became a huge success. So the researchers were hoping that the same thing would happen to Charlie. And I'm gonna stop there. I'm not really gonna spoil anything to you guys, but yeah, I fell in love with this book so much. I love Charlie's story, and the more I read it, the more invested I was. And by the end of the book, I was bawling and I was crying so hard, and I remember my husband entering the room and he saw me crying, and it was because of this book. So yeah, I better prepare a box of tissue because I know I'll be crying again when I read this. So the second book I have here is a very short read. It's actually a novella and also a very famous one, and it's none other than The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This is one of my favorite stories of all time. My mother introduced this to me back when I was a little girl, and it's a story that I want to share to my kids and grandkids and even great-grandkids because it is just timeless. So for those of you who don't know what The Little Prince is about, it's a story of a pilot who got stranded in the Sahara Desert. So while he was trying to fix his airplane, he met a very unlikely person, and that was Little Prince. So the Little Prince was from a different planet, and I know it's a very weird encounter, but you guys will learn so much from their time together. I still, read this book every single year, and I'm gonna do it again this year because it is just so beautiful, and I don't think I will ever get enough of this book. The third book I have here is another sci-fi story, and to be honest, I'm not really a sci-fi reader, but I really enjoyed this one, and it is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I was also able to watch the movie, and although there were so many differences, but I was not disappointed at all. I loved both the movie and the book. It's so good, and if you guys haven't read this one yet, I highly recommend it, and I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of fun. So Ready Player One is set in the year 2045, and during that time there were so many problems going on that reality became a very ugly place to live in. And so the people spent most of their time in this virtual world, this game called the Oasis. And in the Oasis, it's so cool because you could be, whatever you wanted to be. You could customize your looks, you could create your own life, etc. But then one day when the creator of Oasis dies, he leaves behind a message to all the players saying that he kept an Easter egg hidden in the Oasis, and whoever could solve all the puzzles and pass all the challenges not only inherits his vast fortune but also gets control of the Oasis. So we follow our main character Wade Watts, who practically became obsessed and determined in finding the Easter egg. But unfortunately, it wasn't going to be that easy. He meets a lot of competition along the way, and the competition just gets worse and worse until people would actually hurt and kill just to find the Easter egg. So it's really intense, a lot of action, but then it's also a lot of fun, and there's a lot of pop culture references in the book, so you're really gonna enjoy it. So I'm just really excited to read this book again. It's actually quite thick, but I think I'm gonna partly listen to it in audiobook. The fourth book I'm gonna read again this year is actually very dear to my heart. It is the book that introduced me to historical fiction, and it also got me interested in reading World War II stories. It's a YA historical fiction novel. It's award-winning, and the book I'm referring to is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Now in Salt to the Sea, we follow the lives of our 4 main characters, and the story is actually told in 4 different perspectives, which is really cool. So they're actually 4 refugees who come from different backgrounds, different situations, and their lives eventually converge in the story as they flee the Soviets. So they're trying to make their way to this ship called the Wilhelm Gustloff. It's a ship that promises them safety and freedom, but things just go horribly wrong in this story. So I remember reading this book and it was just intense. I would be happy one minute and then I would be so sad and so angry and then so fearful. It was just an emotional roller coaster ride. I love it so much, and Ruta Sepetys became an instant favorite of mine. She does a lot of research before writing her books, and she chooses stories that aren't really very popular in history. It's like giving a voice to the voiceless. I believe this is a story that deserves to be heard. And I also love her other book called Between Shades of Grey. I just recently read that a few months ago and I also loved it. And if you haven't read Salt to the Sea yet, I highly recommend it. Now we're down to the last book I'm gonna read again for this year. This is a book that I've fallen madly in love with, and it is A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Backman. I read this a few years ago, but I will never forget how I felt the first time that I read it. It's a book that will make you laugh, it will make you cry. It's just so many emotions in one book, and I am very sure you will love it as well. So it's a story about a man called Uwe, obviously. So Uwe is this old man who lives alone, and everybody in his neighborhood thinks he is the grumpiest person to ever walk the earth. He's just always angry and grouchy, and he thinks everybody around him is stupid. So in short, Uwe doesn't like anybody and nobody likes him back. He lives alone, he prefers to be alone, he prefers to just, stick to his routine. But then one day, his well-structured life is suddenly disrupted when a new family moves in next door. And this family happens to be the exact opposite of what Uwe is. They're happy, they're lively, they're chatty, and the rest of the story is just an adventure. I'm very sure you're gonna love it as much as I did. And this is a book that, I will never get tired of sharing to other people because it is just so beautiful, it's so precious. You will not expect how the story will unfold. So yeah, I'm just very excited to read it again this year. So here are the 5 books I'll be reading again. Of course, I'll also be reading a lot of new ones, but I'm just super duper excited to get back into these. These are really some of my favorites. And if you've read any of these, let me know in the comment section below how you thought about them. And if you're also planning to do a reread, let me know as well. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!